Story 1. The Mile Marker That Moves. My dash cam timestamp flips from 02:17 to 02:17 again, and the world outside my windshield lurches like it's been yanked backward by an invisible chain. The mile marker ahead reads 247. I pass it. I feel the gentle rise of the bridge expansion joints under my steer tires. I watch the marker slide into my mirrors. Then a second later it's in front of me again, 247, lit by my low beams like a tooth in the dark. My reefer unit coughs once like a throat clearing behind the trailer wall, and the smell in my cab turns wrong. Hot pennies, wet wool, a faint, sour sweetness like fruit gone to rot. The CB crackles with my own voice saying, "Don't look at the clock." I was running a load of boxed poultry out of Cheyenne, Wyoming, headed east on I-80 toward Omaha, dated March 14th, 2023 on my bill of lading, with the reefer set at 34 degrees. The weather was a low, crawling snow that didn't stick to the asphalt but made the shoulders shine like black glass. My Peterbilt's dash lights cast a greenish glow over my hands, over the coffee ring stains on my logbook, over the fine crack in the plastic around the air gauge that I'd been meaning to replace. I'd been driving long enough to know when the night got too quiet, when even the Jake brake sounded like it was echoing inside my skull. The first time I hit 247, I thought I'd hallucinated it. I'd been pushing hard because the receiver in Omaha had a zero-tolerance late policy, and my dispatcher had been texting those little "you good" messages that meant "don't screw up." I'd slept 3 hours at a Love's outside Laramie, the kind of sleep that feels like you fell face first into a pile of dirty laundry. My eyes had that gritty burn, and my tongue tasted like old coffee grounds. But hallucinations don't reset your odometer. My trip meter had been creeping up steady since Walcott Junction. It should have read 312 by then. It read 298. Then 298 again. Then 298 again, like the truck was chewing the same mile and spitting it back out. I hit the marker and my cab temperature dropped fast enough to make my molars ache. The defroster air turned thin and metallic, and my breath fogged in front of my mouth even with the heater on full. My skin pebbled. My fingers went stiff on the wheel. The smell, hot pennies, wet wool, grew stronger, and it came with a sound I felt more than heard. A low, slow scraping under the cab, like something dragging its nails along the frame rail. I glanced at the clock again. 02:17. The seconds weren't moving. My radio showed no signal bars, even though I knew I'd been getting decent coverage. The CB hissed with a steady static, then a burst of clear audio, my own voice, recorded, terrified. "Don't look at the clock," it said again. "Keep your eyes on the white line." My first instinct was mechanical. Something's wrong with the electrical. Bad ground, alternator, a fuse. The mind grabs for grease and bolts when it's afraid. I reached down, flicked the hazard switch. The click sounded delayed like thunder after lightning. The dash lights dimmed, then brightened in a pulse. Outside, the snow stopped moving. Not stopped falling, stopped existing. The flakes hung in the air like suspended ash. I eased off the throttle. The truck didn't slow. The engine note stayed the same, a steady, patient drone. I tapped the brake. The air pressure gauge didn't dip. The brake pedal felt like stepping on warm clay, soft and yielding, no resistance, no bite. My trailer's shadow in the mirror didn't change. The whole rig kept eating darkness as if the road itself was on a conveyor belt pulling me forward. The mile marker ahead read 247. I forced myself to stare at the white line, the right shoulder stripe. It looked too bright, too clean, like it had been painted seconds ago. I watched my right steer tire track inches from it, steady. And then the stripe shifted, not the truck, the stripe. It slid left under my tire until my tire was on it. Then it kept sliding, like the road wanted my wheel to follow it into the ditch. I yanked the wheel left and my arms screamed, like the steering had doubled in weight. The truck responded sluggishly, a half-second behind my hands. My trailer tugged. The fifth wheel groaned. A low moan rose from behind me, from inside the trailer, deep and wet like a human trying to scream through a mouth full of water. "Reefer," I muttered. "It's the reefer." But the reefer temperature display blinked 34. 34, 34, like it was laughing. The CB crackled again. A different voice this time, thin, female, broken by static. "You passed me," it said. "You don't pass me." My stomach tightened. I grabbed the mic. "Breaker 19, anybody out here on 80 eastbound? I'm at..." I looked at the marker. "Mile 247, anybody copy?" Static, then my own voice again, whispering, "Don't tell them where you are." A sign materialized out of the dark like it had been waiting for my headlig. HTS, rest area 1 mile, I knew that stretch. There wasn't a rest area for another 30 miles. I'd run it a dozen times, but the sign was real enough that my beams threw hard shadows off its bolts. I made a decision that felt like swallowing a nail. I needed to stop. If I couldn't slow, if the brakes weren't mine anymore, then I needed an exit ramp, a shoulder, anything to get this rig out of the lane before I plowed into a family of minivans that didn't deserve my nightmare. The rest area appeared, lit by a row of sodium lamps that should have cast warm orange pools, but instead threw a sickly yellow light that made everything look bruised. The off-ramp peeled away. My wheel resisted like it didn't want to turn. I fought it, shoulders burning, and the truck drifted toward the ramp as if dragged by a current. The moment my steer tires crossed onto the ramp, the world made a sound like a cassette tape being fast-forwarded. The wind pitch rose. The snow snapped into motion again. My clock jumped to 02:18. The seconds started ticking, loud as footsteps in an empty house. I stomped the brake. This time the pedal went firm and the truck began to slow, air pressure hissing like relief. I coasted into the rest area lot, my trailer rocking, and I rolled to a stop under one of those humming lamps. Silence settled heavy. My hands shook on the wheel. My mouth tasted like copper. I sat there for 10 seconds, counting, making sure time stayed time. Then the reefer unit behind me thumped once, like someone kicking from inside. I killed the engine. The sudden quiet made my ears ring. My breath came fast. I forced myself to do the trucker ritual that calms the nerves. Check the mirrors, check the gauges, check your surroundings. Habit as prayer. The rest area was wrong. The pavement was too smooth, uncracked, with no oil stains, no litter, no tire marks. The bathrooms were a low concrete building with no signage, no door handles visible from my angle. The picnic tables were all neatly aligned like a brochure photo. And beyond the sodium lamps, the tree line didn't look like Wyoming scrub or Nebraska plains. It looked like a wall, dense, dark, too close, as if the forest had walked up to the edge of the asphalt. I grabbed my flashlight and my tire thumper because it made my hand feel less empty. When I stepped down from the cab, the cold hit like a slap. It wasn't just temperature, it was pressure, like the air itself was heavier. The smell of wet wool grew stronger outside, mixed with something else. A sweet, fatty odor like meat left out too long. My boots didn't crunch on gravel. There was no gravel. The lot was perfectly poured. My footsteps sounded muted, as if I was walking on carpet. I walked to the trailer doors, reefer humming, frost clinging around the edges, the seal intact. I pressed my palm to the metal and felt vibration, not from the unit but from inside. A faint tremor like a large animal breathing. Get it together, I told myself. It's chicken, boxes of chicken. I snapped the seal and swung the door latch. The metal was colder than it should have been, biting my skin through gloves. I pulled the doors open. The reefer air rolled out like breath from a freezer. My flashlight beam cut through fog and landed on shelves. Not pallets, not shrink wrap. Rows of metal shelving like a morgue, and on each shelf, neatly arranged, were driver logbooks. Hundreds of them, stacks of spiral notebooks, loose sheets, clipboards, all with names, dates, routes. I saw one with a familiar company logo. I saw one with my own carrier's sticker. My stomach dropped. I stepped up onto the bumper, leaning in. My light found more CB microphones, dashboard clocks. Little plastic Saints drivers hang from mirrors, a cracked pair of sunglasses like mine. A thermos with a dent I recognized because I dented it last year. I heard a whisper behind me, too close in the air by my ear. That's where you end up. I spun, flashlight swinging wild. The rest area lot was empty. The building sat silent, but at the edge of the light near the bathrooms there stood a figure, a woman in a reflective vest. She was too still, too straight. Her face was turned toward me, but the light didn't seem to touch it properly, like it swallowed the beam. I lifted the thumper. Hey, are you okay? She didn't move. The reflective stripes on her vest didn't reflect. They drank the light. You passed me, the voice said, but it didn't come from her mouth. It came from the trees, from the asphalt, from the reefer unit. You don't pass me. A soft click came from inside my trailer, like a pen cap, then another, then a dozen, like someone flipping through logbook pages fast. My flashlight beam shook as I pointed it back into the trailer. The logbooks were moving, not sliding, not falling. Pages were turning by themselves in synchronized waves as if an unseen wind was riffling through them. The sound was like wings. Then the reefer unit's M changed pitch. It dropped lower, deeper, until it vibrated in my bones. The cold air grew colder, stinging my eyes. My breath crystallized. Something shifted at the back of the trailer behind the shelves. A shape in the fog. Tall, too tall. It leaned forward, and the fog parted around it like it was solid enough to push air aside. I backed down off the bumper, boots slipping. My heel hit the asphalt wrong, and pain shot up my ankle. I almost fell. The figure by the bathrooms took a step, but the step didn't match any sound. It just appeared closer, like the space between us had been folded. I ran, not thinking, just sprinting toward the cab because the cab meant control, meant speed, meant leaving. My lungs burned in the cold, and every exhale tasted like pennies. I climbed the steps, nearly tearing my knee, and threw myself into the driver's seat. The doors slammed, shut behind me without me touching them. My keys were still in the ignition. Good, I twisted them. The engine cranked once, twice, then stopped. All the dash lights flickered and went out. In the sudden darkness, the CB hissed. Log your hours, my voice whispered. Log your last mile. I slapped the dash, desperate. Come on, come on. Outside, I heard the slow, deliberate scrape under the cab again. Nails on steel. The whole truck rocked slightly, like something heavy had climbed onto the frame. Then in the side mirror, I saw it. A second Peterbilt, identical to mine, idling behind me in the lot. Same color, same grill bug splatter pattern, same company decals. Even my small crack in the passenger side mirror glass was there. Its headlights were off, but I could see its silhouette under the lamp. And in its driver's seat, lit faintly by the dash glow, was me. He looked over. His eyes were wrong, too reflective, too calm. He smiled like someone who'd finally arrived home. He raised his hand and mimed turning a key. My truck's engine started. Not with my key. My hand was still frozen on it, but with his motion. The dash lights came alive, steady, obedient. The air pressure built fast. The reefer unit behind me surged into a healthy hum like nothing had ever been wrong. I stared at him, heart hammering so hard I felt it in my throat. I grabbed the mic. "Who are you?" My CB crackled with a voice that was mine but older, raspier, like it had been smoked hollow. "The version that stopped," it said. "The version that stayed." My hands trembled. I looked at my logbook on the passenger seat, the last entry. It read, Mile 247, rest area, off duty. I hadn't written that. My pen was still in the cup holder. I snatched the logbook and tore the page out, hands shaking. I crumpled it and threw it to the floor. The paper hit the mat and flattened itself, uncrumpled, smooth. The ink on it seeped like fresh blood, reforming the same words. "Off duty." A thud sounded from behind my cab wall. The reefer unit kicked. Then something hit the trailer doors from inside, once, twice, like fists. The whole rig shuddered. My doppelganger in the mirror leaned closer to his wheel, grin widening, and his lips moved without sound. I read them anyway. "You'll get tired." I slammed my truck into gear. The shifter felt slick, like it had been dipped in oil. I released the clutch and rolled forward. The rest area exit wasn't where it should have been. The ramp I'd come down was gone. In its place was a narrow road that cut into the trees, unlit with no markings like a service road. The lot's edges dissolved into darkness that didn't look like night. It looked like depth. I didn't have time to think. Staying felt like drowning. I followed the only path. As my steer tires crossed the threshold into the tree-lined road, the sodium lamps behind me blinked out one by one like eyelids closing. My mirrors filled with black. The reefer unit's hum followed me, steady, too steady. The forest pressed in tight. Branches leaned toward the trailer. The road was just wide enough for my rig, no shoulder. My headlights cut tunnels through the trees, revealing bark that looked wet, as if it had been recently skinned. The smell of wet wool thickened until it coated my tongue. My radio came alive with chatter, multiple voices, all on top of each other, all distorted. Names, routes. "I'm on 80, mile 247, rest area, brakes won't. Don't look at the clock." I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles hurt. "Okay," I told myself. "Okay, this is a detour, some weird private road. You'll find back to the interstate." The clock ticked. 0219, 0219, 0219. The minute wouldn't roll. The road began to slope downward, gently at first. My ears popped like pressure change. My trailer brakes squealed faintly, not from me applying them, but as if the whole rig was being held back by unseen hands. Then the asphalt changed. It became tacky. My tires made a sticky sound like rolling over spilled syrup. The steering got heavier. I smelled hot rubber. My engine labored even though I W. "Asn't climbing." I glanced in the side mirror and felt my stomach turn. The road behind me didn't exist, not as distance. It was a flat black wall, inches behind my trailer doors, like someone had painted over reality. The trees beyond it were frozen, not moving with wind because there was no wind. My reefer unit thumped again, and the trailer doors bucked outward slightly. The latch rattled. "Stop," a voice begged through the CB, so weak it sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Please stop. It hurts when you go deeper." I didn't recognize the voice. Male, young, terrified. "Who is this?" I barked. Static, then a faint, clear answer. "I'm in your trailer." I felt cold flood my gut. "No," I said, but my voice sounded small. "That's chicken." The voice sobbed. "It's not chicken anymore." The reefer unit's temperature display on my dash flickered, and for a second it didn't show 34. It showed 17, then 6, then a negative number I didn't understand. My cab filled with the smell of meat. The road continued downward and the trees began to change. Their trunks twisted into shapes that looked too much like spines. Branches curved like ribs. My headlights caught pale strips on the bark that looked like healed scars. I started to sweat despite the cold, sweat that chilled instantly on my back. My heart kept trying to climb out of my chest. I turned on my interior cab light to feel less alone. The light came on, and in the reflection of my windshield in the glass, I saw someone sitting in my sleeper berth. Not a shadow, not a suggestion. A man hunched, knees pulled to his chest, wearing a truck stop hoodie. His face was hidden behind his hands. He rocked slightly. I didn't turn around. I couldn't, my hands glued to the wheel. "Get out," I whispered. He lifted his head. His eyes were milk white, filmed over. His lips were blue. He smiled gently like he understood. "I was you," he said, voice soft in the cab, not through the radio. "I got tired." The road dipped steeper. My engine revved higher, but the truck didn't accelerate. It felt like driving through thick mud. The sticky asphalt clung to my tires, sucking. The man in the sleeper reached forward, slow. His fingers were frostbitten black at the tips. He pointed at my clock. "Don't look," I told him, voice cracking. "Too late," he said. The clock changed. It flickered once and displayed a date instead of time. March 14, 2023. Then it began to roll backward. March 13, March 12, March 11. The numbers stuttered like a bad VCR. My stomach lurched as if the truck had hit a pothole, but the road was smooth. My memories did something sick. For a moment, I smelled my mother's kitchen from childhood. Then it was gone, replaced by diesel and rot. For a moment, I felt the texture of a woman's hand I'd held years ago. Then it was gone. For a moment, I couldn't remember my own last name. Panic clawed up my throat. "No, no, no," I said, and my voice sounded muffled, like speaking through cloth. The man in the sleeper leaned closer to the windshield reflection, his face more visible. He looked like he'd been dead for weeks. Skin waxy, lips split, a faint ring of dried blood at his nostrils. "Every mile you take," he murmured, "it takes a mile back." My steering wheel jerked. The truck veered right toward a tree. I fought it. My muscles screamed. I felt something tugging my thoughts, like fingers rummaging through my mind, pulling out details and dropping them. The CB burst into a chorus. 247, 247, 247, voices chanting in unison. I screamed and slapped the radio off. Silence. Then the whisper came from the reefer unit, from behind me, through metal and insulation. "Log your last mile." The trailer doors slammed from inside, so hard the whole cab shook. I tasted bile. I made a decision that felt insane but necessary. If something was in my trailer, if it was using my cargo and my logbook and my route like threads to stitch me into whatever this place was, then I needed to sever it. I needed to unhook, drop the trailer, sacrifice the load, save myself. The road widened ahead into a clearing like a turnout. No signs, no lights, just a flat, dark patch of asphalt surrounded by ribbed trees. I pulled in, grinding my teeth, and slammed the brakes. The truck stopped with a wet, sticky shudder. I jumped out into the cold and ran to the back of the cab to the fifth wheel area. My flashlight beam shook over the catwalk, the air lines, the electrical cord. The metal was rimed with frost. But the fifth wheel wasn't there. In its place was a seam of flesh, thick and pale, connecting tractor to trailer like a living tongue. It pulsed slightly. Each pulse made my stomach twist because it matched my heartbeat. I gagged hard. The smell hit me full, raw meat and diesel, sweet and nauseating. My flashlight beam caught something moving under the flesh-like muscles contracting. I stumbled back, slipping on the unnaturally smooth pavement. My boot came down in something sticky. I looked. It wasn't oil. It was blood thinly smeared. From the trailer, a voice moaned, close now, not through radio. "It hurts," it whispered. "It hurts when you pull away." My cab door slammed shut behind me without wind. I whirled. The man from the sleeper was standing outside now, barefoot on the cold asphalt, leaving no footprints. He smiled, and his teeth were too many. "You can't drop it," he said. "You are it." The clearing's darkness thickened, and from the tree line shapes emerged, figures in reflective vests, dozens of them standing in neat rows. Their faces were blurred like smeared paint. Their vests didn't reflect, they absorbed. They stepped forward together, silent, and the air pressure in my ears increased like descending underwater. My vision tunneled. I backed toward the cab, heart pounding, mind screaming. "No," I said over and over. "No, no." The chanting returned, not from the radio but from the air itself. 247. My dash cam inside the cab lit up on its own. I could see its little red recording light blinking through the windshield. The screen, facing inward, showed my driver's seat, empty, and then slowly a figure sat down in it. Me again, calm, smiling. I realized then the truth that made my blood go colder than the air. There wasn't just one doppelganger. There were as many versions of me as there were times I'd hit mile marker 247. Each loop, each failure left a copy behind. Each copy learned how to stop resisting. And I was running out of versions that still knew how to be afraid. I lunged into the cab, slammed the door, and cranked the engine. It started instantly, eager. The flesh seam between tractor and trailer pulsed harder like excitement. I threw it into gear and floored it. The truck moved, but not forward. The clearing stretched. The road ahead elongated like rubber. My speedometer climbed 55, 70, 85, but the trees didn't pass. The figures in vests stayed at the edge of the headlights, always the same distance away, walking without moving their legs. The clock changed again. It displayed 02:17. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. A text from my dispatcher, time-stamped 2023, but the date was wrong. It read, "You good, we lost your ping, call me." Then another buzz, a photo message. I opened it with shaking fingers. It was a picture of my truck, parked at a rest area. Mile marker sign visible, 247. The photo was taken from behind, showing the trailer doors open. Inside were shelves of logbooks. In the foreground, a man in a hoodie stood with his back to the camera, looking into the trailer. The hoodie had my company logo. The man's posture was mine. My throat tightened until swallowing hurt. I dropped the phone. The reefer unit behind me thumped one last time, a heavy, satisfied sound. The smell of wet wool became overwhelming, filling my nose, my mouth, my lungs. I coughed, and the cough tasted like copper and rot. The forest road ahead brightened suddenly, not with light but with absence, an opening like a cut in the dark. The interstate, real road, real lane markings. 80. Hope flared so hard it hurt. I aimed for it, hands trembling, eyes watering. The truck surged forward at last, tires gripping normal asphalt. The world snapped back into motion, wind, snow, distant lights. The figures vanished. The pressure in my ears released with a pop. My clock ticked forward 0220, 0221. I was back on I-80 eastbound, right lane, hazards blinking. My trailer sat steady behind me. The reefer hummed like a machine, nothing more. I started laughing, thin, hysterical, because I'd escaped. I'd forced my way out. Then my CB crackled, clear as daylight. "Driver," a woman's voice said gently, "you forgot to log your last mile." I looked up. The mile marker ahead read 247. In my mirror, far back in the snow, I saw a rest area sign blink into existence like a bruise surfacing on skin. Rest area 1 mile. And in the faint glow of my dash cam reflection, I saw someone sitting in my sleeper again, rocking softly, waiting for me to get tired. The last thing I remember before my mind went numb was realizing I couldn't recall my mother's name. Only the number 247, repeating like a prayer I never meant to learn. Asterisk story 2, the PAYPHONE that answered with MY breath. The payphone rings the moment my door shuts, a sharp metallic bell that slices through the rain like a knife through wet paper. I shouldn't be able to hear it from inside my cab with the engine idling and the wipers slapping, but I do, every ring vibrating in my teeth. The phone sits under a flickering canopy light at a forgotten pull-off on Route 66 outside Kingman, Arizona, and the handset dangles like a dead limb. It rings anyway. When I look out, I see the cord moving, not from wind, but like something is tugging it from the other side. My name is Patricia Sullivan, and I'm watching a phone call try to crawl into my truck. I'd pull. Led over because my GPS had started giving directions in a voice that wasn't mine and wasn't any standard navigation voice either. Too close, too intimate, like someone speaking directly into my ear. "Turn here," it had whispered, and the map had blinked, the roads shifting like veins under skin. My load was auto parts in a dry van, scheduled delivery in Barstow by morning. My ELD said I had 43 minutes left on my drive clock. Rain hammered the windshield in fat, warm drops, carrying that desert smell, dust turning to mud, creosote blooming. When I saw the pull-off, it wasn't on my map. Just a widening of the shoulder with a cracked asphalt pad, a vending machine that looked decades old, and that payphone. The canopy light above it buzzed like an insect trapped in glass. I told myself I needed a minute to reset, stretch, get caffeine, anything to keep my nerves from spiraling. I parked, set my brakes, and stepped out into the humid desert rain. The phone rang. I stared at it, absurdly angry. "Nobody uses those," I muttered, like saying it out loud could make it true. It rang again and again. The handset bounced slightly with each ring, as if someone unseen was slamming it against the housing from the inside. My skin prickled. I walked toward it because I'm a professional driver and professionals don't get spooked by junk on the roadside. That's what I told myself. That's what I needed to believe. The closer I got, the more the sound changed. It wasn't just a ring. Under it, I heard breathing, slow, wet breaths timed with the bell. The air smelled of ozone and pennies. My tongue tasted metallic. I stopped a foot away, rain dripping off my hood. The phone's plastic casing was yellowed, cracked, and the coin return was rusted shut. Someone had scratched words into the metal plate under the keypad with a knife. "Patty, call home." Nobody calls me Patty anymore. My mother did before she died. The letters were fresh, shiny where the metal had been gouged. The phone rang one more time, louder, and the handset lifted a fraction of an inch as if held by invisible fingers. My chest tightened. I reached out and my hand hesitated in midair. The cord twitched. The breathing through the receiver grew louder, like whoever was on the other end was pressing their mouth to the speaker. I picked it up. The rain sound vanished. The highway hiss vanished. The world narrowed to the receiver in my hand and the sound of my own breath coming back at me. Not delayed like an echo, immediate, matching every inhale, every shaky exhale, like the phone was connected to my lungs. "Hello," I said. A pause, then a voice, my voice, but thinner, strained. "Don't hang up," it whispered. "If you hang up, they can see you." My stomach turned cold. "Who is this?" The voice laughed softly, a sound that made my scalp crawl. "You know who, you're just earlier." I tried to set the receiver back down. My hand wouldn't move. It was like my fingers had cramped around the plastic. The cord tightened, pulling slightly, as if something on the other end was tugging. "Listen," my voice said quickly, breathless. "You're at the pull-off with the phone. You're thinking you can leave. You can't. Not until you pay." "Pay," I repeated stupidly. "You didn't pay attention," it hissed. "You didn't pay the toll." The canopy light flickered, and in that strobe of brightness and dim, I saw something in the phone booth glass that hadn't been there. A reflection of my truck, but the trailer was different. Longer, rust-streaked, and the side of it was covered in handprints. My pulse hammered. "What toll? I'm on 66. The voice went quiet, then spoke with a calm that scared me more than panic. "Look at your odometer." I turned toward my cab. The rain smeared the view, but I could see the dash through the windshield. The odometer read 66,666.6. I froze, breath caught in my throat. I knew what it should have read. I'd checked it last fuel stop. It wasn't that, it couldn't be that. Behind me, the payphone receiver grew warmer in my hand, as if it had a pulse. "Patty," the voice murmured, and when it said my name, it sounded like a hand stroking hair. "They like patterns, they like numbers, they like when you make it easy." My wipers in the cab stopped mid-swipe. The engine tone dipped like it was choking. My headlights flickered. I yanked against the receiver. The cord stretched farther than it should have, rubbery and wrong, as if it had no end. I stumbled backward, and the payphone came with me, its whole housing creaking, bolts groaning, as if the phone itself wanted to follow. I let go. The receiver snapped back into place, and the phone rang again instantly, as if offended. I ran to the cab. My boots slapped wet asphalt. My lungs burned. I yanked the door open and climbed in, slamming it, locking it. The world outside was still rain and dark, but the inside of my cab felt suddenly too small, too close. My GPS screen was black. Then T lit up with a single word in white letters. "Pay." My phone, my personal phone, buzzed. A call, unknown number. I didn't answer. It buzzed again, the vibration rattling the cup holder. I watched the screen, dread pooling. It stopped. Then the CB crackled, though I hadn't had it on. "Patty," a man's voice said, deep and wet. "Pick up." The hair on my arms lifted. I grabbed the mic, thumb on transmit. "Who the hell is this? I'm not playing." Static, then my own voice again, through the CB now, as if it had switched channels. "It's not a game, it's a receipt." My windshield fogged from the inside, breath steaming. I wiped it with my sleeve and saw movement outside near the payphone. A figure under the canopy, tall, wearing a poncho, head bowed. It lifted its head slowly, and I saw no face. Just a black void under the hood, and inside that void, a faint glow like embers. The figure raised a hand. In it was a coin, large, silver, shining even in the rain. It held it out toward me like an offering. My throat went dry. "No," I whispered. The figure pointed at the payphone. The GPS flashed again. Pay. Then my reefer. No, I didn't have a reefer, I was dry van. Then my trailer began to thump from behind. A heavy, slow impact like something inside shifting its weight. That made no sense. Auto parts don't thump, they don't breathe, they don't hit walls. The trailer thumped again, harder. My mirrors shook. My hands went numb on the wheel. I couldn't see into the trailer, but I could feel it like pressure in my bones. Something was awake back there. My LED screen blinked. It switched from hours to a toll ledger. Lines of text I'd never seen listing dates and routes. March 14, 2023, Route 66, paid, no. Below it, other names, other drivers. Some marked paid, yes, many marked no. I recognized one, Evan Morales, a driver I'd known from a previous company. He'd vanished last year on a run from Flagstaff. They found his truck abandoned, doors open, engine cold. His line read, paid, no. My stomach lurched. I looked back at the payphone. The faceless figure stood still, coin extended. The phone rang again, louder, like it was inside the cab now. My ears rang with it. I pressed my palms to my temples. I stammered. I don't have cash, I don't. My own voice came through the CB, urgent. You do, in the ashtray. You kept it for emergencies. I froze, my ashtray. I hadn't opened it in months. I slid it out with trembling fingers. Inside lay a single silver coin. It was cold enough to burn my skin. It wasn't a quarter. It wasn't any currency I recognized. One side had a road etched into it, a straight line with mile markers. The other side had a face, no, not a face. A blank oval, smooth, featureless. My breath came shallow. How? The faceless figure outside tilted its hooded head, as if smiling without a mouth. The trailer thumped again, and this time I heard a muffled voice from behind the cab wall. A human voice. Patricia, it sobbed, please. My blood turned to ice. That voice sounded like my sister. My sister was alive. She lived in Tucson. I hadn't spoken to her in 6 months because we'd fought at Mom's funeral. But that voice, same pitch, same tremor. Please, it cried again, let me out. The sound made my chest ache. It dragged at guilt I'd buried under miles and schedules. My hands shook harder. I stared at the coin in the ashtray and then at the payphone. Outside, the faceless figure pointed slowly, insistently. The GPS flashed, pay. I told myself it was a trick, a lure. But the thumping behind me grew frantic, like fists, like a body slamming itself against metal. Patty, my sister's voice screamed, it's dark in here. My eyes filled with tears, hot and humiliating. I grabbed the coin and stumbled out of the cab, rain hitting my face like needles. I ran to the payphone under the buzzing canopy light. The handset lifted by itself, waiting. I slid the coin into the slot. It fit perfectly. The phone went silent. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the coin return clanked open and spilled out not coins but teeth. Human teeth, wet and slick, bouncing on the asphalt. The smell of blood rose. I gagged, stumbling back. The payphone receiver began to drip something thick and dark. Behind me, my trailer door latch clicked. Slowly. I turned, heart pounding so hard my vision pulsed. The trailer doors, still sealed, still locked, began to swing open by themselves, as if an invisible hand was unlatching them from inside. I ran toward it screaming, no, no. The doors opened wide. Inside my dry van were not auto parts. There were rows of payphones, stacked floor to ceiling, hundreds of them all ringing, cords writhing like snakes. The sound hit me like a physical blow. The air inside was humid and warm, smelling of breath and pennies. And in the center, hanging from the ceiling by dozens of phone cords wrapped around wrists and ankles, were people, drivers, suspended like meat in a butcher shop. Their mouths were open, and with every ring their chests rose and fell, forced breathing through the receiver speakers embedded in their throats. My knees buckled. I retched, bile burning. I recognized one of the hanging bodies by his company cap. Evan Morales. His eyes were open, glassy, and when he saw me he tried to speak, but instead the payphone nearest him rang louder, drowning him. A hand touched my shoulder. I spun. The faceless poncho figure stood inches from me now. No footsteps, just there. It held out an empty palm. The toll wasn't paid, I realized. Not with a coin. Paid with a call. The payphone at the pull-off rang again, but now all the ringing in the trailer synchronized. A single monstrous bell that made my teeth vibrate. My own voice whispered in my ear, right behind me though no one was there. Now you answer. The receiver in the payphone lifted and floated toward my hand like a snake offering its head. I screamed and ran for my cab, slipping in rain, hands scrambling. I climbed in, slammed the door, locked it, engine roaring to life as if eager to flee. But when I looked in the mirror, my trailer doors were still open, and the ringing phones were spilling out like insects, cords dragging on the asphalt, reaching toward my cab. I floored it. The truck lurched forward, tires spinning. The cords stretched, rubbery, snapping against my trailer frame like whips. The ringing followed me, not fading with distance. It grew louder, as if the sound was inside my skull now. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I threw it across the cab. It kept buzzing on the floor, vibrating like a trapped animal. The GPS lit up with a new direction, calm and final. Turn back. I refused. I kept driving, rain streaking, heart hammering. The highway signs blurred. The night felt too close. Then my CB crackled with my sister's voice, soft now, resigned. Patty, it said, you answered anyway. I realized I'd been breathing into something, my microphone pressed unconsciously to my lips. With each inhale, the CB speaker exhaled my breath back at me. A closed loop, a line connected. The ringing stopped abruptly. Silence. Then, from the dark behind my cab wall, a chorus of voices whispered in unison, intimate and cold. Thank you for calling. When I hit the next mile marker, it read 66,666.6 again, and my reflection in the windshield had no face. Asterisk Story 3, the way station with no scale. The red light at the way station flashes ON, and my brakes lock by themselves so hard my chest slams the steering wheel. I'm still doing 50. My trailer fishtails. The steering jerks. I taste blood where my teeth cut my lip. The sign above the ramp doesn't say open like it should. It says, weigh yourself. My name is Marcus Chen, and something on I-5 north of Reading just decided my body is cargo. I'd been hauling packaged lumber, straps tight, tarp flapping in the wind like a warning. It was April 2nd, 2024. The Cascades were black silhouettes against a moonless sky. Fog rolled in thick, hugging the road. My cab smelled of pine from the load, mixed with diesel and the cheap menthol gum I chewed when I was tired. The way station wasn't on my route plan. It came out of fog like a concrete mouth. The ramp light glowed red. I tried to stay on the highway, no officer, no sign I had to pull in, but my turn signal clicked on by itself. The wheel turned. My hands fought it. My truck drifted onto the ramp like it was on rails. The moment my steer tires hit the ramp, my engine died. Not stalled, cut. All dash lights stayed on. My speed bled off slowly as if the air itself was thick. The trailer behind me felt heavier with each foot. I rolled under the canopy and stopped in front of a booth. There was no scale pad in the pavement, no metal plates, just smooth concrete wet with fog. The booth window slid open with a squeal. Inside was darkness deeper than the night. A voice spoke from it, flat, official, wrong. "Step out," it said. "Stand on the line." A white line had been painted on the ground in front of my bumper. It looked fresh, still glossy. I swallowed, forcing calm. Am I being inspected? I got my permit, my log. "Stand on the line," the voice repeated. I should have stayed in the cab, I know that. But I was exhausted, and the authority in the voice hit old training reflexes. I grabbed my paperwork, stepped down, boots landing on wet concrete. The fog under the canopy wasn't fog. It didn't drift. It held still, like breath held in lungs. I walked to the line. The moment my boot toe touched it, pain shot up my leg, sharp, hot, electrical. My muscles seized, my knee locked. I couldn't step back. The booth voice spoke softly now. "Release your cargo." My chest tightened. "What cargo?" "Lumber's strapped." "No," it said. "The cargo inside." My stomach dropped. I felt it then, an unnatural heaviness in my ribs, like something had been packed into my chest cavity. My breath came shallow, strained. In the booth darkness, something clicked, like a scale calibrating. A digital display above the canopy lit up, but it wasn't weight in pounds. It displayed a number under a label, U. 168.4. I stared, my weight. I hadn't been on a scale in months. How would it know? The number flickered. 168.4, 168.5, 168.6. I felt my body change, not subtle. I felt moisture leave my mouth. I felt my skin tighten as if being shrink-wrapped. I swallowed and my throat felt narrower. The booth voice spoke. "Over." The display flashed red. "Over." A buzzer blared. The sound made my bones vibrate, my teeth ached. "Too much," the voice said, almost annoyed. "Remove excess." My hands trembled. "I don't understand." A door opened on the side of the way station building, an employee door. A man stepped out wearing a high-vis jacket. His face was blurred as if smeared by fog. He walked toward me carrying a clipboard and a box cutter. My heart punched. "Hey," I shouted, "back off." He didn't react. He stopped in front of me close enough I could smell him, sterile like a hospital mixed with something rotten underneath. He looked down at my torso, then at the display. His blurred mouth moved. "Excess," he murmured. He raised the box cutter. I tried to move. My legs wouldn't obey. The white line held me like glue. The blade slid into my shirt with a soft snick and then into my skin with no resistance, like cutting ripe fruit. Pain bloomed, hot and nauseating. I screamed, but the fog swallowed it. He didn't cut deep. He sliced a long, shallow line across my abdomen and something bulged out, not intestines, not blood. It was sawdust. It poured from the cut in a steady stream, dry and pale, spilling onto the concrete like sand. The smell hit me. Fresh pine, sharp and clean, impossibly strong. My stomach clenched as my body expelled lumber filler like I'd been stuffed. The display number dropped. 168, 167.2. The man's blurred face tilted as if satisfied. He sliced again along my ribs, more sawdust spilled. I sobbed, breath ragged, vision tunneling. The booth voice said, "Better." The man stepped back. The white line released my legs suddenly, and I collapsed to my knees in the sawdust pile, hands slick with blood. I looked down at my abdomen. The cuts weren't bleeding much. They were packed with pale fibers like wood pulp wet with something dark. I touched my skin and felt it, grainy, as if my flesh had become laminated. The man in high vis reached into the sawdust pile with gloved hands and pulled something out. A small, hard object. A knot. A wood knot, dark and round, slick with blood. He held it up to the canopy light. It looked like an eye. Then he walked to my truck, climbed up, and opened my driver door. He got into my seat like he belonged there. I staggered up, panic surging. "No!" I screamed, stumbling toward the cab. The engine turned over. My headlights came on. The truck rolled forward slowly, leaving me behind under the canopy. I ran after it, but my legs felt heavier, slower, as if my bones had been replaced with timber. My joints creaked. My breath rasped like saw teeth. The display above the canopy flashed again. You... 165. It was still weighing me, even without me on the line. The number kept dropping, and with each tenth of a pound, I felt something inside me being removed. Memories, strength, softness. I reached the bumper and grabbed it with both hands. The metal felt cold and indifferent. I tried to haul myself up, but my arms trembled like brittle branches. The booth voice spoke once more, almost gentle. "Too light now," it said. "Add." The fog under the canopy thickened, and shapes moved within it. Long, thin silhouettes like stacked boards. They slid toward me, pressing against my back. I felt something enter my body through the cuts, cold, solid pieces pushing in. The pain was dull, deep, like being packed tight. My spine arched. I gasped. The display climbed, 166, 167.5, 170.2. My skin tightened further, and when I tried to scream, sawdust puffed from my mouth. The truck rolled out onto the ramp, driven by the blurred man, and I was dragged with it, clinging to the bumper like a desperate insect. The fog followed, pouring after us like a tail. We merged onto a 5 again. Cars passed, their headlights streaking. None slowed, none honked, as if they couldn't see me. The blurred driver glanced in the mirror and smiled with a mouth that wasn't blurred anymore. It was my mouth. He mouthed words I couldn't hear over wind. "Weight's good." My hands slipped. My fingers didn't feel like fingers. They felt like splinters wrapped in skin. I fell. The highway asphalt hit me, but it didn't scrape like it should. It thudded against my body like hitting a fallen log. I rolled into the shoulder, into wet grass, gasping. The truck disappeared into fog ahead, tail lights fading, carrying my lumber load and my stolen seat. I lay. On the shoulder, rain starting again, feeling my body settle. My skin itched. I reached up and peeled at my forearm. A strip of skin lifted too easily, like bark. Underneath was pale wood, slick and alive with sap that looked like blood. My phone was in my pocket. I dialed 911 with shaking hands. The screen lit up, but the number it called wasn't 911. It was 168.4. A voice answered immediately, flat and official. "Step on the line," it said. And in the distance, through fog and headlight glare, I saw another canopy light flicker on along the shoulder. Another way station that hadn't been there before, its sign glowing. "Weigh yourself." Asterisk story 4, the cargo that learned my name. My trailer knocks twice from the inside, polite like a guest, and then a voice says my name through the aluminum skin, clear, close, and absolutely impossible. Robert Hayes, it says, pronouncing it right, like someone reading it off a headstone. My hands clamp the wheels so hard my wrists ache. The road is US 50 in Nevada, the loneliest highway, and I'm running hazmat, sealed drums, paperwork perfect, placards clean. Nothing in that trailer should be able to talk. The first knock came at mile marker 119, right after I passed a burned-out rest stop that smelled like wet ash even from the road. The second knock came 10 miles later, harder, and my reefer. No reefer, dry van. My trailer frame vibrated as if something heavy shifted. Then the voice. I checked my mirrors. No one, just desert and a sky so black it looked solid. Wind pushed at my trailer, steady crosswind. The Jake brake whined when I eased off throttle for a downhill grade. Robert Hayes, the voice repeated, patient. I swallowed hard and forced myself to keep driving. Don't respond. Don't engage. That's what you do with weird stuff on the road. Ignore it until it becomes mechanical, then fix it. But the voice didn't fade. It moved with me, sliding along the trailer wall like a finger tracing metal. You're carrying me wrong, it said. My stomach clenched. Hazmat drums, industrial solvent, sealed. Shut up, I whispered and hated how small I sounded. The voice chuckled softly. You hear me? Good. That means you still have enough in you. I felt sweat gather under my cap despite the cold night. My mouth tasted like pennies. I glanced at my eld. May 9th, 2022, 01:43. I'd been out too long. Sleep debt makes you hear things, that's what I told myself. A road sign appeared, reflective green, Inspection Station 2 MILES. There shouldn't be an inspection station on this stretch, not on US 50, but the sign was there, bolts and all. The voice in the trailer sighed like relief. Finally, it said, a door. My hazard lights clicked on by themselves. I fought the switch, turned them off. They turned back on. My turn signal lever moved down on its own, blinking right. No, I said louder, heart pounding. The trailer knocked again, 3 quick taps, impatient. Don't be stubborn, it said. You promised. I promised what? I snapped before I could stop myself. Silence. Then the voice softened, almost tender. You don't remember yet. The road ahead brightened with sodium lights. An inspection station emerged from darkness like a factory placed in the desert by mistake. Concrete barriers, orange cones, a building with lit windows but no visible personnel. The open lane sign glowed green. My truck drifted toward it as if the asphalt itself leaned. I slammed the brake. The pedal went soft, my air pressure gauge didn't move, the truck kept rolling. Panic flooded me. I shifted down, Jake brake roaring, but the engine note did nothing. I was being carried. Just let it happen, the voice murmured. I crossed into the inspection station lane. A boom gate lowered in front of me with a slow, deliberate motion, forcing me to stop. This time my brakes bit, hard, like someone else applied them. The truck shuddered to a halt inches from the gate. A speaker crackled on a pole. Driver, a voice said, male, calm, official. Exit cab, proceed to trailer. My skin went cold. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out, boots crunching on gravel that wasn't there a second ago. The air smelled like disinfectant and diesel. I walked toward the trailer. My beam caught the hazmat placards, the door latches, the seal. Everything normal, except the faint bulge in the aluminum panel midway up as if something pressed from inside. The speaker voice said, open. I can't, I called back, voice shaking. Hazmat sealed. The trailer voice laughed quietly. You can, it whispered. You always can. My hands moved before my mind agreed. I snapped the seal. My fingers fumbled with the latch. The metal felt warm like skin. I swung the doors open. Inside, the drums were gone. In their place were dozens of cardboard boxes, unmarked, stacked neat. The smell inside wasn't solvent. It was human sweat and old breath and something sweet, like decay masked by pee. Perfume. My flashlight beam hit the nearest box. Written on it in black marker, Robert Hayes. My throat closed. I stepped closer, trembling. The boxes were labeled with names, not random. Names I recognized from truck stops, from dispatch texts, from old company newsletters. Drivers. I heard a rustle from within the stack, like someone shifting in tight space. A muffled cough. The speaker voice said, "Inventory." The trailer voice whispered, inches from my ear though it had no mouth, "Pick yours." I backed away, bile rising. "This isn't mine," I gasped. "I don't." A hand pushed out from between two boxes. Pale fingers, bruised, nails torn. It clawed at air, searching. A voice from inside the stack sobbed, "Help." My body reacted before my mind could, adrenaline instinct. I reached toward the hand. The trailer voice snapped, suddenly harsh. "No, not yet." The hand withdrew as if yanked. The boxes shifted, restacking themselves with a wet cardboard groan. My flashlight beam jittered. The inspection station building's windows brightened, and behind the glass I saw silhouettes, rows of people standing still, watching. Their faces pressed to the glass like fish against aquarium walls. The speaker voice said, "Driver Hayes, confirm delivery." I shook my head violently. "No, I'm leaving." I ran back to the cab, boots slipping on smooth concrete that seemed to tilt. I climbed in, slammed the door, started the engine. It roared alive instantly, eager like a dog on leash. But the boom gate in front of me didn't lift. My GPS screen flashed an address I'd never entered. Forgotten Highway Facility, Dock 13. My L beeped. New message, delivery accepted. My stomach turned to ice. The trailer behind me thumped once, heavy. Then the voice spoke again, softer, almost affectionate. "Thank you," it said. "Now you remember." And I did briefly, like a nightmare surfacing. A memory of signing something at a truck stop desk. A clipboard, a friendly woman offering free fuel points, a line of tiny print about participation, my signature. I had promised without knowing what I promised. I slammed the shifter into reverse, tires spinning. The boom gate groaned and lifted, not to let me go forward, but to let me back, into a dark lane that hadn't been behind me before. A lane lined with dock doors, numbers painted, 11, 12, 13. My truck rolled backward as if pulled. I pressed the brake. It did nothing. The trailer voice hummed, pleased. Dock 13's door opened like a mouth. Inside was darkness and the sound of cardboard scraping. I screamed and yanked the trailer brake lever. It slid forward on its own, releasing. The last thing I saw before my headlights crossed the threshold was the nearest box labeled Robert Hayes splitting open slightly. Just enough for an eye to look out. My eye, wide, terrified, begging me not to leave myself behind. Asterisk Story 5. The rest stop with My Missing Days. A little boy stands in the middle of the diesel lane at the Pilot in Bismarck, North Dakota, and his skin is the color of paper left in the sun, thin, translucent veins like blue ink. He raises a finger to his lips and shushes me because my truck's engine is still running, and behind my trailer door something is dragging itself along the floor with a slow, wet scrape. My name is Elena Vasquez, and I'm about to learn what happened to the 3 days I can't remember. I'd pulled in at 23:58 on November 7th, 2021. At least that's what my ELD said. But my phone said November 10th. My logbook entries had gaps, blank lines where hours should be. My last clear memory was fueling in Rapid City, then nothing. Like someone had taken a razor to my life and cut out a strip. The pilot looked normal, bright canopy, the smell of frying food from inside, trucks lined up. But the air felt wrong. Too still. Sound dampened as if snow had fallen even though the ground was dry. The boy stood there barefoot on cold concrete. Nobody else reacted. Drivers walked past him like he was smoke. He shushed me again, eyes huge. "Don't wake them," he whispered. My mouth went dry. "Who are you?" He pointed at my trailer. "They're in there," he said, voice shaking. "They put them in there when they forget." A metallic bang sounded from inside my trailer, hard like a fist. My stomach twisted. I backed toward my cab, heart hammering. The boy grabbed my sleeve. His fingers were cold and slightly sticky like old tape. "You forgot," he said, urgent. "They're still taking." I yanked free, panic flaring. "Taking what?" He looked up at the canopy lights and his pupils reflected not light but darkness. "Days," he whispered. "They eat days." My ELD beeped. It displayed a warning, unaccounted time, 72 hours. I stared at it, breath shallow. The boy nodded as if confirming. "Where's everyone?" I whispered, because the lot was full but also empty. Drivers moved, but their faces were blank, their movements robotic. One man walked toe. The store, then turned and walked back, repeating like a loop. The boy tugged me toward the back of my trailer. "Open it," he hissed, "before they notice you're awake." I shook my head. "It's sealed. I'm hauling refrigerated produce. I can't." He cut me off, voice fierce. "You already did 3 days ago." A chill crawled up my spine. I looked at my seal. It was intact, but when I touched it, it crumbled like dried skin. My hands trembled as I opened the latch. The trailer door swung outward with a sigh of cold air. Inside, the reefer lights should have revealed pallets of produce. Instead, my flashlight beam hit a narrow hallway, impossible because trailers don't have hallways. The walls inside were lined with shelves holding jars like a pantry. Each jar contained light, tiny swirling motes of light, each labeled with a date in black ink. NOV 8, 2021. NOV 9, 2021. NOV 10, 2021. My chest tightened. I stepped in, and the air inside smelled like old calendars, like paper and dust and something sweet. At the end of the hallway, a door stood open. Beyond it, a room filled with sleeping people, drivers in bunk beds stacked like a barracks. Their faces were slack, their mouths slightly open. Each had a thin tube running from their nose to a machine that hummed softly, siphoning something invisible. On the machine's display, a counter ticked down, HOURS remaining. I stumbled, nausea rising. The boy whispered behind me, "They drain you until you don't miss it anymore." I turned, throat tight. "Who are they?" The boy pointed upward. The ceiling of the trailer wasn't aluminum anymore. It was flesh-colored, veined, pulsing faintly. Something moved above it, a slow ripple like a large creature crawling. A voice came from the darkness beyond the bunk room, female, calm, maternal. "Elena," it said, "you're back. You were doing so well asleep." My blood went cold. The voice sounded like my mother. My mother had died when I was 16. I backed toward the trailer doors, heart hammering. The jars on the shelves rattled gently, their light swirling faster like excited insects. The mother voice continued, soothing. You've been tired for years. We help. We take what you don't need. I shook my head, tears hot. I need my life, I whispered. The boy suddenly grabbed my wrist hard. Run, he hissed, eyes wide with terror. They noticed. The hallway behind me began to elongate, stretching like taffy. The trailer doors seemed farther away, receding. The mother voice sighed, disappointment layered with hunger. Don't make this hard, it said. You'll forget the struggle, too. The bunk room behind me rustled. The sleeping drivers stirred, not waking fully but turning their heads in unison toward me, mouths opening wider as if inhaling scent. Their eyes remained closed, but their nostrils flared. My stomach lurched, I ran. My feet pounded the trailer floor, but the hallway stretched, the doors sliding away. The jars rattled louder, and some began to crack, leaking light that spilled like glowing fog onto the floor, wrapping around my ankles like cold smoke. The boy sprinted beside me, barefoot and silent. Don't step on the light, he warned. It's your days. If it breaks, you lose it forever. I tried to leap over the glowing puddles, but they spread, eager. Each time my boot brushed one, a memory flashed in my mind. Me eating, me driving, me laughing at something on the radio. Then the memory dissolved like mist. Panic roared in my ears. I couldn't lose more. The trailer doors finally loomed close, but a figure stepped into the doorway, blocking it. A woman in a pilot uniform, smiling gently. Her face was my mother's face, younger than I remembered, eyes too bright. Sweetheart, she said, voice warm, come back to sleep. The boy slammed into her legs, screaming. His hands passed through her like smoke, but her smile faltered. I shoved past, shoulder brushing her. Her skin felt like cold gelatin. A wave of nausea hit me. I tumbled out of the trailer into the cold air of the lot. The normal sounds rushed back, engines, distant laughter, diesel pumps. The boy stumbled out after me. But the lot looked different. The trucks were older models. The signage slightly faded. The air smelled of stale cigarettes. A man walked past me and stared, eyes bloodshot, as if I was the strange one. I looked at my phone. It read November 10th, 2017. My throat closed. I couldn't breathe. The boy stared at me, face paling even more. You ran the wrong way, he whispered. Behind us, my trailer doors began to close by themselves, slow and final. The mother voice drifted out, soft as lullaby. See you soon, it said. You always come back when you get tired. The doors latched with a click that sounded like a lock on a coffin. The boy looked up at me, eyes filling with tears. How many years did they take? He asked. I opened my mouth to answer and realized I couldn't remember my own ag. Lee. Story 6, The Road That Filmed Me Back. The dash cam light turns red on its own, and the screen shows my cab from an angle that isn't possible, like a camera is mounted in the ceiling above my head, watching me breathe. I reach up to the dash cam, fingers shaking, and the screen flickers to a live feed of my sleeper berth where a man is sitting with his back to the camera, shoulders hunched. But when I whip my head around, the sleeper is empty. My name is Darnell Brooks, and on I-95 in South Carolina, something is recording the parts of me I can't see. It started as a normal overnight run, paper goods from Savannah to Richmond, rain misting, traffic light. I'd set my dash cam to loop record like always. I'm not paranoid, just practical. Insurance wants footage. At 01:12 on August 18th, 2024, the cam beeped. I glanced at it and saw a message I'd never seen. Live mode enabled. I didn't enable anything. Then the feed changed. It wasn't my forward road view. It was inside my cab, aimed at my face. I stared, heart tightening. What the? The cam speaker crackled with a soft whisper. Smile. I reached to unplug it. The cord burned my fingers like it was hot. I jerked back, sucking air. My phone buzzed with a notification from an app I didn't have. Watching you. A link. I didn't click. I shouldn't have clicked. But curiosity is a hook, and fear makes your mind reach for answers like a drowning person reaches for any hand. I clicked. My phone opened a video stream. It was me live driving. The angle was wrong, higher, wider, like from the ceiling. I could see the top of my head. I could see my hands. I could see my eyes glancing down at my phone. The stream had comments scrolling beneath, like a live show. HES awake. Turn left. Make HIM look. My throat went dry. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat like it had bitten me. The dash cam whispered again, "They like you." I felt the hairs on my arms rise. I checked my mirrors, dark highway. A few headlights behind, distant, nothing unusual. Then my interior cab light flicked on by itself. In the rearview mirror, I saw a face in the back window, pressed close behind my sleeper curtain. Pale, smiling. I spun, nothing. But when I looked back at the dash cam screen, the face was there in the feed, clear as day, inches behind my seat, smiling wide. I stared at the screen, frozen. The face's eyes were black, too large, reflecting light like a deep pool. Its smile stretched too far. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. The face in the feed leaned forward and whispered, though no audio should have been in the video. Wave. My steering wheel jerked slightly. My left hand lifted off the wheel involuntarily, fingers twitching, and I realized with horror that my own body was responding to commands on that stream. My hand rose and waved. Terror flooded me so hard my vision blurred. I grabbed the wheel with both hands, fighting the urge to do what the screen wanted. The comments on the stream sped up. He obeyed. Make HIM stop. Show US the back. My truck's cruise control clicked off. My speed dropped. I hadn't touched anything. My brake lights flashed in the mirror. No, I whispered, voice shaking. No, no, no. The dash cam beeped and the screen flashed. Requested camera switch. Trailer. My trailer, the cam can't see that. There's no camera back there. The feed changed. Now my phone showed the inside of my dry van trailer, lit dimly, filmed from the ceiling. The paper goods pallets were there, but between them, strapped to the load bars, were people, drivers bound with duct tape, eyes wide, mouths gagged. Their chests rose and fell fast with panic. I gagged, my stomach lurched. Oh my God. One of them looked straight up at the camera, tears streaming, and the duct tape over his mouth moved as if he was trying to scream. The comments flooded. New ONAS. Make HIM add more. Don't let HIM stop. My hands shook violently on the wheel. My brain screamed that this wasn't possible, but the feed was live. The people were real. I saw their breath. I saw the tremor of the trailer floor with road vibration. I needed to stop, call cops, open the trailer, help them. I hit my hazards and started to pull onto the shoulder. The dash cam screamed, suddenly loud, a harsh static sound that made my ears ring. No stopping. My steering wheel yanked back toward the lane. I fought it with all my strength, shoulders burning. A comment appeared in larger text on the stream. Punish HIM. My cab temperature dropped abruptly. Cold poured from the vents, frosting the edges. My breath fogged. The face in the dash cam feed appeared again, now closer, sitting on my passenger seat, head tilted, grin wide. It reached out in the feed and touched my cheek. I felt the touch in real life, ice-cold fingers pressing my skin. I screamed and swerved. The rumble strip roared under my tires. My heart hammered so hard. It hurt. The face whispered, delighted, "You feel us now." My phone buzzed again. New notification, vote to cut power? Yes, no. A poll bar filled rapidly with yes. My dash lights flickered. "No," I shouted, slamming my palm against the dash. "Stop, leave me alone." The face's smile widened. The stream comments exploded with laughter emojis I didn't understand, strings of characters like a language written by insects. My engine sputtered, the power steering stiffened, the truck began to drift. I made a desperate decision. If the dash cam was the conduit, I had to destroy it. Not unplug, destroy. I grabbed my tire thumper from behind the seat and swung it hard at the dash cam. The screen shattered, plastic cracked, sparks spat. If for a heartbeat, silence. Then the shattered screen lit up anyway, glowing through broken glass, and the face stared out from inside it, eyes bright. "You can't break a window," it whispered, "when you're the show." My phone stream didn't end. It simply switched to a new angle outside my truck, filming from the air above the highway. I saw my rig from above, headlights carving through dark. No drone in sight, no helicopter, yet the angle was smooth, perfect. And behind my trailer, on the asphalt, faint glowing symbols appeared in my wake, as if my tires were writing. The comments now said, "HES marked. Take HIM to the exit." My GPS blinked with a new route, flashing an exit ahead I didn't recognize. Service Road 13. My truck's turn signal clicked on by itself. I fought it, tears streaming, muscles trembling. "No," I gasped. "No." The face's voice came from the broken dash cam and from my phone simultaneously, layered like a chorus. "You already agreed. You clicked." The exit appeared, a narrow ramp with no signage except a small reflective number, 13. My steering wheel turned. My truck took the exit. The moment my tires crossed onto the ramp, the live stream chat went silent, as if the audience held its breath. The road narrowed into trees. The streetlights vanished. My headlights illuminated a gate ahead with a camera mounted above it. The camera's red light blinked on. The gate swung open. The dash cam's broken screen flickered one last message in cracked glass. Season finale. As my rig rolled through the gate, my phone's front camera turned on by itself and showed my face. Wide-eyed, crying, and beneath it a caption appeared, typed in real time. "Thank you for watching." The last thing I heard before the screen went black was the sound of an audience applauding from inside my trailer. Asterisk Story 7. The town that only exists on MY fuel receipt. The gas pump prints a receipt longer than my forearm, and halfway down, between gallons and price, it lists a destination I never entered. "Welcome back to Shallows, Pop. Population 1. The cashier inside the tiny station smiles like she's known me forever, and when I tell her I've never been here, she points at my hands and says, "You still have the same fingerprints." My name is Jerome Klein, and I'm fueling in a town that insists I'm its only citizen. I was on I-80 in eastern Utah, running a flatbed of steel coils, chains tight, edge protectors in place. It was February 22nd, 2024, cold enough that diesel smelled sharper. I'd been watching my fuel like a hawk because the wind was brutal. When my low fuel light came on earlier than expected, I got nervous. The GPS showed a station a mile off the interstate on a state route I didn't recognize. I turned, the road narrowed. The landscape changed from open desert to a low valley filled with fog like a bowl of milk. My headlights made the fog glow. Then the station appeared old with a single pump and a sign that read Shallows gas in peeling paint. No other buildings, no other cars. I fueled anyway because I'm not a hero, and running out of diesel is a stupid way to die out there. The receipt printed and I saw the line, "Welcome back to Shallows, population 1." I laughed at first, uneasy. Then the cashier called me Pop without me saying my name. "You want coffee like last time?" she asked. "I've never been here," I said. She smiled wider. "You say that every time." The coffee inside tasted like cold metal and burnt sugar. The store shelves were stocked with expired brands I remembered from childhood. The radio played an old song my father used to hum. I left fast, skin crawling, and got back on the road. Only the road didn't lead back to I-80. It looped deeper into fog. My GPS showed no signal. My phone showed no service. My fuel gauge stayed full unnaturally. The fog parted to reveal a town, small, quiet, everything too neat. A diner, a post office, a row of houses with lights on but no movement. Signs everywhere said "Welcome home, Pop." I tried to turn around. The road behind me was gone, not hidden, gone, just fog. I parked in front of the diner because my hands were shaking, and I needed to anchor myself to something real. The diner door chimed when I entered, and every head turned toward me. There were maybe 20 people inside. Families, elderly couples, a teenager with earbuds. They all smiled in unison like actors waiting for their cue. "Pop," they said together. My throat tightened. "I'm not," I started, but the words died. The waitress set a plate of food in front of me without asking. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, peas. It smelled like my mother's cooking. My stomach growled despite fear because hunger doesn't care about nightmares. "You drove far," the waitress said softly. "You always do when you don't want to remember." I forced a laugh. "Look, I'm just passing through. I need directions back to I-80. The teenager looked up, eyes empty. "You can't leave," he said casually. "There's nobody else to be you." My skin went cold. I stood, chair scraping. "What does that mean?" The old man at the counter smiled gently. "It means," he said, "this town needs a resident, and you built it with all the parts of yourself you threw away on the road." My hands trembled. I didn't build anything. The waitress leaned close, voice kind but firm. "You did. Every time you forgot a name, every time you skipped a funeral, every time you chose miles over people, the pieces that couldn't keep up came here." My chest tightened. A memory flickered, my father's funeral, me on a run, choosing not to stop. Guilt like a stone. I backed toward the door. The diner patrons didn't move. They just watched, smiling. Outside, my flatbed chains rattled in the wind, but the wind sounded like whispers. I climbed into my cab and started the engine. It started, but the dash clock read population, 1 instead of time. I slammed the shifter into gear and drove toward the edge of town. The fog thickened like a wall. My headlights hit it and stopped, as if the light couldn't penetrate. I kept driving. The truck slowed as if pushing through water. The fog pressed against the windshield, and within it I saw faces, people I'd forgotten. Names I'd let fade. They pressed close, mouths open as if calling me. My ears filled with faint voices. "Jerome, Dad, where were you? Why didn't you? I screamed and floored it. The engine roared, but the truck barely moved. The fog became heavier, cold pressure on my chest. The dash clock flashed, population 0. My breath stopped, my heart hammered. The fog parted abruptly, and I burst out onto a road, back onto I-80, traffic rushing, signs normal. Relief hit like collapse. I laughed, shaking. "I'm out," I whispered. "I'm out." Then I looked at my hands on the wheel. My fingertips were smooth. No whorls, no fingerprints. My phone buzzed. A notification from an unknown sender. A photo. It showed a "Welcome back to Shallows" sign. Under it in neat text, population 1. And in the reflection of the sign's glossy paint, I saw my truck driving away, while another me stood in the fog, smiling, staying behind to keep the town alive. Asterisk Story 8, the siren that used my heartbeat. The ambulance siren behind me matches my heartbeat perfectly, every wail timed to the thud in my chest. And when I speed up, the siren speeds up too, like it's tethered to my pulse. I look in my mirror and see the ambulance's lights, but the vehicle itself has no driver. The front cab is empty, windshield dark. My name is Sonia Patel, and I'm being chased by an emergency that wants me to become the patient. It was at 10 outside El Paso, Texas, July 3rd, 2024. Hot night, the kind where the air feels thick and your skin stays damp. I was hauling pharmaceuticals in a temperature-controlled trailer, reefer humming steady, paperwork strict. I had to make a drop in San Antonio by morning. No delays. The siren started as a faint wail in the distance. I thought it was on the opposite side of the interstate. Then it grew louder behind me. Lights flashed in my mirror, red, white, blue, but not police. Ambulance. I moved to the right lane, giving space. The siren didn't pass. It stayed behind me, matching my speed. "Okay," I muttered, uneasy. "Go around." It didn't. The siren's rhythm changed slightly, and I realized with a sick jolt it was synchronized with my pulse. I could feel my heart in my throat, and the wail rose and fell with it like a cruel duet. I tapped the brakes to slow. The ambulance slowed. I accelerated. It accelerated. My CB hissed, then a voice, calm, clinical. "Driver," it said, "pull over." I grabbed the mic. "Who is this? Ambulance behind me, you need a round." The voice responded, "You are the emergency." Cold crawled up my spine. I checked my mirrors again. The ambulance's cab was empty. The steering wheel turned on its own. The front seats were vacant, no hands. The siren wailed, and I tasted metal. My reefer temperature display flickered, 3420, 10-0. "No," I whispered, panic rising. The pharmaceuticals couldn't freeze, millions in liability. The siren wailed harder, my chest GH-10'd painfully, like invisible hands squeezing my ribs. The voice on the CB said, "Symptoms progressing." My breath came shallow. I felt cold sweat break out. My fingers tingled. My vision narrowed. "You're having a panic attack," I told myself. "You're fine." But then I felt something else. An unnatural numbness spreading from my left arm into my shoulder, like ice water in veins. The siren's wail rose sharper. The ambulance pulled closer. Its headlights washed my trailer in white. In my mirror, I saw the front grille had no logo, just a blank, smooth surface like a sealed mouth. On its hood was a symbol, a heartbeat line, then flat. My phone buzzed. A notification from an app I didn't have, patient status critical. It listed my name, SONIAPATEL. My throat closed. I threw the phone into the passenger footwell. The voice on the CB said almost kindly, "We can help pull over." I thought of the cargo, the delivery, the normal world. If I pulled over, what then? I'd seen too many news stories, abandoned rigs, drivers missing, no explanation. I refused. I kept driving. The road ahead shimmered with heat. The desert on either side was black. The stars looked too sharp. The siren began to sound closer inside my head. My heartbeat hammered. The siren matched it. My reefer unit behind me changed pitch, straining. Cold leaked into my cab, frosting my vents. "Stop," I whispered, not sure if I meant the ambulance or my heart. A highway sign appeared. "Emergency services, exit 12 mile." There shouldn't be an exit. I knew this stretch, but the sign glowed bright. The ambulance's lights flashed faster. My pulse surged. The voice said, "Destination confirmed." My turn signal clicked on by itself. I grabbed it, forced it off. It clicked back on. My steering wheel began to turn. "No," I shouted, fighting it, muscles straining. Pain stabbed my chest, sharp and deep. I gasped. The siren wailed like laughter. The exit ramp appeared, leading into darkness. At its end, I saw a building with a glowing red cross. No other lights, no cars. I fought the wheel. My arms shook. My left hand went numb, useless. My body betrayed me. My truck took the exit. As soon as my tires hit the ramp, the ambulance siren cut off abruptly. Silence flooded, making my ears ring. Then I heard something worse, a heart monitor beep. A beep, beep, beep. It came from my reefer unit. Each beep synchronized with my heartbeat. My reefer display now showed not temperature but BPM, 142. My chest tightened, my vision blurred. The ramp sloped down to the building. A gate opened by itself. The building's doors slid apart like automatic hospital doors. Cold light spilled out, sterile and white. I rolled inside. The interior wasn't a garage. It was a corridor lined with curtains like an ER bay. The smell was antiseptic and old blood. The walls were tiled. My headlights illuminated a gurney in the center of the corridor. On the gurney lay a body covered with a sheet. The sheet moved, rising with a breath. My truck stopped by itself, brakes hissing. The voice on the CB said softly, "Transfer patient." The gurney sheet slid down slightly, revealing a hand. It was my hand, same ring on the finger, same small scar on the knuckle from when I'd caught it on a trailer latch. I screamed, my body convulsed, pain exploding in my chest. My heartbeat spiked and the monitor beeped faster, faster. The ambulance rolled in behind me with no driver, doors swinging open. Inside were paramedic uniforms hanging on hooks, empty. The gurney's head turned slightly under the sheet, and a voice whispered from beneath it, weak, familiar. "Help me," it said. "I'm you after you keep running." The monitor beep stuttered. My reefer display flashed. BPM 30. The lights overhead flickered. The voice said, "Choose." I realized then, stop and become the patient, or keep driving until my heart becomes the siren forever. I chose to run. I slammed the shifter into gear, punched the throttle. The truck surged forward, tearing out of the corridor, curtains ripping, sterile light shattering into darkness. The moment I burst back onto the ramp, the siren returned, louder than ever, now inside my chest. My heartbeat fought, pounding, and the siren matched it, dragging me along. When I finally reached I-10 again, traffic flowed as if nothing happened. No ambulance in sight. but my reefer unit still beeped like a monitor. And every time my heart skipped, even for a fraction, the siren screamed in my ears, reminding me that somewhere behind me, an empty ambulance is still following, waiting for my pulse to flatline so it can finally pass. Asterisk Story 9. The DOT officer who knew my future crash. The DOT officer's flashlight beam slides across my cab and stops on my face like a scalpel, and he says, "You're going to die at 03:06 when your trailer jackknifes and takes the minivan with the blue baby seat." I laugh because that's impossible, until I look at my dash clock and see 03:05, and my mirror shows headlights approaching fast. My name is Calvin Rios, and I'm being cited for an accident that hasn't happened yet. It was I-70 westbound near Topeka, Kansas, October 19th, 2023. Windy night, gusts slamming my trailer. I was hauling a partial load, mixed freight, lighter than I liked in crosswind. The road was mostly empty, the sky low with clouds that looked like bruises. I saw the DOT cruiser on the shoulder, lights off. Then his spotlight snapped on, blinding, and he pulled out behind me. His lights flashed. I sighed, eased onto the shoulder, hazards on. He walked up slow, heavy boots on gravel. His uniform looked old-fashioned, hat brim too wide. His badge number was scratched out. I rolled my window down. Cold air hit my face. "License and log," he said, voice flat. I handed them over, trying to keep polite. "Any issue, officer?" He looked at my logbook without really reading. His eyes stayed on my face. "Your issue is you're about to kill people," he said calmly. I blinked. "Excuse me." He raised his flashlight slightly, and the beam illuminated my dash clock. 03:05. "You're going to die at 03:06, he repeated. "Trailer jackknife, minivan, blue baby seat, mother survives, father doesn't." My stomach turned to ice. "That's what are you talking about?" He tilted his head. "You can avoid it," he said, "but then you'll owe me." Wind buffeted my cab. My trailer rocked slightly. I glanced in my mirror. Far back headlights, a minivan, hard to tell. "What do you want?" I whispered. The officer smiled faintly. "A correction." He handed my logbook back. On the page for today, in neat handwriting that wasn't mine, a new entry appeared. 03:06, fatal, corrected. My throat tightened. "I didn't write that." "You will," he said, "if you live." My dash clock rolled to 03:06. At the exact moment, a gust slammed my trailer like a giant hand. My truck lurched. The steering wheel jerked. I felt the trailer begin to swing. Panic exploded. I countersteered, eased off throttle, tried to ride it out like training says. The trailer swung harder, tires squealing. In my mirror, the headlights behind were closer now. A minivan, blue baby seat visible in the rear window, lit by my brake lights. My blood went cold. I fought the wheel. My trailer began to jackknife. The world narrowed to the angle of my rig, the squeal of rubber, the scream of wind. Then the officer stepped into my lane. He stood in front of my truck, calm, flashlight beam steady. Impossible he'd be crushed. My truck stopped. Not gradually, not with brakes. It stopped like time had frozen, my momentum cut. The minivan behind swerved, tires screeching, and slid safely into the left lane, passing without impact. The moment it passed, my truck's engine died. Silence, my chest heaved. The officer walked up to my window as if nothing happened. "Corrected," he said softly. I stared, shaking. "How did you?" He held out his hand. In it was a citation ticket already filled out, not for speeding, not for log violation. For failure to report future incident. Fine, 1 life. My stomach twisted. I don't understand. He leaned close, flashlight beam on my eyes. You saw it, he whispered. Now you carry it. My dash clock began to tick backward. 0305, 0304. My head swam, my memories blurred. The minivan's headlights flashed in my mind like a warning. Sign, the officer said. My hand moved against my will, pen scratching. I signed. The officer smiled. Good, he said. Now you'll be there. He walked away into darkness. His cruiser lights never turned on. The cruiser itself wasn't there anymore when I looked. I sat shaking, engine dead, wind howling. My phone had no signal. My CB hissed with static. Then faintly through the static, I heard a woman's sobbing voice. He's dead, she cried. The baby. I froze. The voice wasn't from my cab. It was from the future leaking through. I started my engine again, hands trembling. It started reluctantly. I pulled back onto the highway, heart pounding. The rest of the drive felt wrong, like I was driving through someone else's dream. Every time the clock neared 0306 again, because it did, looping strangely, I felt panic rise. I watched every minivan. I saw blue baby seats everywhere, even when there weren't. By dawn, I reached my delivery. I thought I'd escaped it. Then my dispatcher called, voice tight. Calvin, he said, you hear about that wreck on I-70 last night? Tractor-trailer jackknifed, took out a minivan, Dad died. Baby seat was blue. My blood turned to ice. When? 0306, he said. Same stretch you were on. I couldn't breathe, but He cut me off. State Patrol says you were first on scene. You pulled over. You tried to help. They got your name from witnesses. I stared at my hands, shaking. I didn't remember stopping. I didn't remember helping. But my nails were stained dark like dried blood. In my pocket, I found the citation ticket. The fine line had changed. Fine, 1 life paid. And beneath it, in the same neat handwriting, next correction pending. Asterisk story 10. The driver who reported MY truck missing while I was in it. My CB squawks with a voice saying, anybody seen a white Freightliner Cascadia, Unit 417? Driver missing. Truck last pinged on I-40 near Gallup. I grip the mic to answer, because I'm in a white Cascadia, Unit 417 on I-40 near Gallup, and then the voice adds, if you're in it, don't respond. It's not you anymore. My name is Keisha Monroe, and my own missing person bulletin is coming through the radio while my hands are still on the wheel. It was December 1st, 2024. Cold desert night, stars sharp. I was hauling a refrigerated load of dairy, reefer humming steady at 36. The road was mostly empty, long stretches of darkness broken by occasional truck lights. The CB had been quiet for miles. Then the bulletin came through, clear, urgent. Another driver's voice, strained with fear. I stared at my dash. Unit number taped near the ELD, 417, my heart hammered. This is 417, I said before I could stop myself. The channel went dead silent for a beat. Then a different voice came on, calm, low. No, it said, it is. My stomach dropped. Who is this? The calm voice replied, the one who's already missing. I felt cold flood my gut. I'm right here, I'm driving. A laugh soft, so was I. My headlights hit a sign, missing driver ahead, checkpoint 2 miles. Not a real highway sign. It was printed on a white board, hand-lettered, lit by my beams. My skin prickled, I slowed slightly. My mirrors showed no traffic, the reefer hummed. My breath fogged the windshield edges. Another voice crackled on the CB, female, shaky, familiar. "Keisha," it said softly. My throat tightened. That voice was mine. "Keisha," it continued, pleading. "Don't stop. Don't look in the mirror for too long. Don't." Static swallowed the rest. My hands shook on the wheel. "No," I whispered. "No, I'm not doing this." The checkpoint appeared. Orange cones, flashing amber lights, a portable signboard. A man in a reflective vest waved me down. I told myself it was real. Road work, maybe a safety check, but my gut screamed wrong. The reflective vest didn't reflect properly. The man's face was shadowed, indistinct. He motioned again, urgent. I passed him. He didn't chase, he simply stepped into my lane ahead, suddenly closer, like the road folded. I slammed brakes. The truck slowed, but not enough. My horn blared. At the last second, he vanished, like a blink. My truck rolled through the spot where he'd stood. The air felt thick, and for a moment my cab smelled like wet wool and pennies. My L beeped. It displayed driver status not found. My heart pounded. "That's," I stammered. The calm voice on the CB returned. "See," it said, "the system knows." My phone buzzed. A text from my dispatcher. "Keisha, where are you? Truck stopped pinging. Call ASAP." My blood ran cold. I looked at my GPS. The map was blank, as if I was off-grid. My speed showed 62. My engine sounded normal, but the world outside felt hollow like scenery. I forced myself to focus on the road. Keep moving, find a lit truck stop, people, cameras, reality anchors. Then my headlights illuminated something ahead on the shoulder. My truck. A white Cascadia, Unit 417, parked crooked, hazards blinking. My truck. I stared, mind snapping. Impossible. As I drew closer, I saw the driver door open. A woman stepped out. She was wearing my jacket, my company cap, her hair in my braid style. She looked up as my truck approached, and in the sweep of my headlights, I saw her face. "Mind." She raised a hand, palm out, as if signaling me to stop. I couldn't. My brain screamed that stopping would mean choosing which version of me was real, and I didn't trust the road to let me keep the answer. I sped past. As I passed, she smiled sadly and mouthed words I couldn't hear. In my mirror, I saw her climb back into the parked truck. The hazards blinked. Then the truck's headlights turned on and pulled out behind me. Now there were two of us on I-40, same rig, same unit. My CB crackled with the shaky voice again, mine. "Keisha," it whispered, "you're in the wrong truck." My throat closed. "What do you mean?" The calm voice answered, almost compassionate. "One of them goes home. One of them becomes the story other drivers tell. You already know which one you are." My reefer unit changed pitch, dropping lower like a growl. The cab temperature fell. Frost spidered along the windshield edges. My breath fogged thick. Behind me, the other truck's headlights stayed steady, following at a perfect distance, never changing as if locked. I tried to speed up. It matched, I slowed, it matched like a shadow. The road signs began to change. Distances doubled. Exits named things I'd never H. Eared, GALLUP became gallows. Albuquerque became AlbQ, letters missing like teeth. My skin crawled. "No," I whispered. "No." My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered because fear makes you do stupid things when you want certainty. My own voice spoke, calm and exhausted. "I'm tired," it said. "I want you to take over." I am you, I whispered, tears burning. I'm still driving. A soft sigh. That's the problem, my voice said. You're always still driving. The line went dead. My phone screen displayed a single word. Swap. My steering wheel jerked slightly, as if my hands were losing grip on reality. My vision blurred. For a moment, my reflection in the windshield didn't match my movements, like a lagging video. The other truck behind me flashed its high beams once, twice, like a signal. Ahead, a tunnel appeared, impossible on this stretch, cut through rock lined with dim lights. A sign above it read, Unit 417, return. My truck drifted toward the tunnel entrance. I fought it, muscles straining. The wheel felt heavy, like turning through mud. The calm voice on the CB said softly, if you go in, you come out missing. If you don't, you come out someone else. My chest tightened. I thought of my mother's voice on voicemail, my niece's laugh, the feel of sun after weeks on the road. I wanted home. I wanted myself. I made a desperate choice. I slammed the brakes and yanked the trailer brake lever, trying to force a stop before the tunnel. The rig screamed, the trailer swung, tires shrieked. For a split second, I saw the future, jackknife headlights impact. Then the other truck behind me didn't swerve. It drove straight into my trailer like it wanted to merge. Metal screamed. The impact jolted my spine. My cab lurched forward and sideways, and the tunnel lights flickered as we crossed the threshold together, two identical trucks colliding into one shadow. Everything went black. When I came to, I was parked neatly on the shoulder outside Gallup, hazards off, engine idling. Dawn light bled into the sky. My phone had service. My GPS worked. My ELD showed normal status. My dispatcher called immediately, voice frantic. Keisha, where the hell were you? We had you missing for 6 hours. I swallowed, throat raw. I'm here, I said, staring at my hands on the wheel. They looked normal, but when I glanced in the mirror, my eyes looked calmer than I felt, too calm, like someone who'd finally stopped fighting. I'm here, I repeated, and my voice sounded like mine, but older, tired in a way that felt permanent. My dispatcher exhaled hard. Thank God. Listen, State Patrol found your truck abandoned near Gallup last night. Door open, keys on the seat. No sign of you, we thought. My stomach dropped. Found my truck. Yeah, he said. Unit 417. I stared at the unit number taped on my dash. 417. My reflection in the windshield smiled faintly, without me meaning to. Keisha, my dispatcher asked, uneasy, you okay? I looked at the road ahead, at the miles waiting, and realized with a slow, sinking horror that I couldn't remember what my own laughter sounded like. Only the sound of a CB bulletin repeating somewhere in the static, warning other drivers not to respond when they hear their own name. Because by then, it isn't you anymore.